A couple weeks ago, I made a video on how to lay and ballast three-rail O-scale track, and after I put it on YouTube, I got some responses from people who wanted to know how you would take up the track once you've ballasted it. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. I've got a section of rail here on my main line that's not quite as level as I would like it to be, and I'm going to take up this track and then relay it. So I'm going to show you real quick how I take up this track that's ballasted. The first thing you'll want to do is take out any track screws that are holding the track down. I've got a few in this section right here, so I'm just going to take my screwdriver and pull them out. Like that. And then I'll do these other screws as well. Okay, now that I've got the screws out, it's time to chisel this ballast away. And to do that, I'm going to use a flathead screwdriver and a small hammer. And all I do is just come along the side, give it a little tap, and just start prying the ballast away. Just be careful not to hit the track. And it'll come away relatively easily. And just kind of work the screwdriver in there any way you want, and loosen that ballast up and pull it away. And we're going to do this all the way down the side. While you're working your way down the side here, you also want to make sure you get the screwdriver between the ties and just give it a little tap just to loosen up that ballast that's between the ties, and you can kind of pry that out like that. While I'm working my way down this side here, I also wanted to remind you that while you're doing this, try your best not to tear up the roadbed that's underneath the ballast. Alright, so now I've completely chiseled away most of the ballast on this side of the track. I've certainly gotten it away from the track itself. There's a little bit down here, and I'll work on that a little later to get all that removed. But I've gotten it all away from the track on this side, so I'm going to start on the other side and do that just the same way. Before I do that, I wanted to mention one thing. Some of you are probably sitting there saying, well, instead of using a tiny little screwdriver to pry this stuff up, why don't I just use a big chisel, a big hammer and chisel to chisel this stuff up? You can certainly do that if you want, but I have found that using a big chisel and hammering it tends to spray the ballast all over the place and make a big mess all over your layout. So that's why I don't do it. And also, a small screwdriver is better at getting in between the ties like you need to do around here. I'm deballasting the other side of the track now, and I wanted to show you that once you get pretty adept at this, you can kind of get into a rhythm and get your own style with this. I'm not even using the hammer anymore. What I'm doing is just I stick the screwdriver in between the ties and then give it a little pound with my hand and pop the ballast out like this. And you can get into a pretty good rhythm. Like that. Just going down the track, popping out ballast. Now we're done deballasting both sides of the track, so now it's time to do the middle. And for the middle, all I'm going to do is take my little screwdriver and just give it a tap in there a couple times to break up that ballast that's in the middle between the ties. Just like that. And just keep on doing that all the way down the length of this track. And be careful not to hit any of the ties or damage any of the ties or any of the rails. Okay, now I've loosened up all the ballast in the middle, and the track has started to come loose as I've done that. So all we're going to do is just gently loosen the track and pull it right off. And there's our piece of track in good shape. What you can do once the track is off is, in these spaces where there's still some ballast, just go there and give that a couple taps with a screwdriver, and it'll come right out. Just like that. And you've got a perfectly good piece of track that can be reused. With the track now gone, all we've got is a bunch of rubble and our roadbed down here. You can suck up all of this loose ballast with a dust buster or something, what I like to do sometimes is I'll take these big chunks of ballast that are still glued together, and I'll make just a nice little rubble pile to put by the side of the road on the way out, or maybe in a junkyard or something, and it just makes some nice scenery. Underneath all this rubble, we've still got our roadbed, which is perfectly good and you can reuse it. To get that up, what you're going to need to do is remove all this ballast, finish chiseling away the ballast on the side here until you've exposed the edge of the roadbed, and then what I do is I take one of these flat scraping tools from Home Depot and then just kind of work it under the roadbed and loosen it up from the table, because remember, there's glue under here that's holding the roadbed to the table, so you can't just pull the roadbed up or else you'll tear the roadbed up and you'll tear the table up. So I just work this thin tool under here and that'll loosen the roadbed up, and you keep doing that and eventually you can take all of this roadbed up and reuse it. I'm going to leave this roadbed here personally because I'm just relaying this track in the same spot, so I'm going to reuse the roadbed in its current position, but if you wanted to completely remove the track, that's how you would take the roadbed up, and then you would just put some grass down or other scenery and your track's completely gone. Okay, I've cleaned this up, so now you can get a good idea of what I've done. The roadbed's right here, ready to be reused, and that concludes this tutorial.